This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with frontman Bobby BLitz Ellsworth of the heavy metal act Overkill. If I knew absolutely nothing about Overkill, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Well, I think it's based on aggression. It's an emotion that is fed by the action versus the reaction. Meaning that if the song itself or the band itself in a live situation produces an action, we're looking for a reaction out of the audience, and that's a constant exchange back and forth of energy.
Your latest album, Scorched, is scheduled to be released on April 14th through Nuclear Blast Records. There was some delays getting this album out. Obviously, the world shutting down was one of the things, but kind of gave you more time to focus on this album than you could prior albums, correct?
Isn't it funny how the world shut down, but the people didn't? You know, I mean, here's one of the little bit of evidence of that. And I'm sure, you know, in everybody else's life, but in our personal lives, this was based entirely on that. We're of the school of thinking that if you write, record, release, you got to tour. You know, it's part of the equation, especially at our level. You know, we're not, we can't wait 8 years to do a fucking record. You know, this is the longest time between records. And to not tour, if we were originally slated for April 21 release, we wouldn't have been able to tour. So this was the whole thinking behind it. But I do think that somewhere in there, the results itself kind of show them in the record that there was that much more time to, inject ideas, ear candy, go different places, polish it up.
This was the first time that you guys had ever worked on an album remotely?
Totally remotely, yes. We've always embraced the technology of the day with regard to anything from promotion to recording. I'm not a Facebook guy, for instance, but for sure I need a Facebook guy to promote the band. I don't need that shit in my house. If you know what I'm saying. And I don't care what your day was like. No offense, but but doing it remotely was different. And I can't say it was fearful. It was just it was kind of like walking into the unknown, because we'll always be there when the drums are being done. There's some scratch guitars being laid down. And I think that just kind of, it gives that old bravado of everybody together kind of a vibe, and it's old school. But this time, no. And again, the results kind of speak for themselves. It was something that kind of worked out for us, because as time went on, we became used to the fact that it was remote, and we were using the technology of the day to go back and forth and exchange ideas.
Well, let's talk a bit about the songs that have been released so far ahead of the album. Let's talk about The Surgeon. You got a visualizer video out for that. What was kind of the inspiration to the lyrics for that one?
Well, even beyond the lyrics, that's kind of a thrash 101, for us. I mean, that's been the template for us for a long period of time. But, you're always trying to take that template and push the parameters out. You want to be able to go somewhere a little bit different with it. And one of the unusual musical elements with regard to this is that, Didi Verney and Jason Bittner, Dave Linsk, I mean, they had sewn together approximately 5 different riffs in this song. And I didn't know it till I actually counted them later on. I'm like, 1, 2, holy shit. And the key to making a good riff-oriented song, especially a thrash song, is sewing them together seamlessly. And I think that that's what they accomplished on this, so it's not thrash 101. It's that template, but it's taken from a different perspective. Lyrically, it was weird because, you could see in there that, going medical with a lyric, it was obviously pandemic influenced. Who's the surgeon? I mean, is it the Who? Is it Dr. F? I mean, Dr. F. But the point is, it started getting kind of depressive when I was writing that. And this is when I was talking earlier about having the luxury of time. I recognized it. Became a little depressive, a little dark, a little bit reflective of the day and the circumstance that we were all in. But I just tore it apart over approximately 3 years I had to write it. And it became kind of a positive pushback with regard to what Overkill energy is all about. And that positive pushback wasn't submission, but more let's say, an aggressive bloodletting. Let's get rid of this infection and move on, do what we do best. That's a good generalization of the surgeon.
Now, the song that you have out, you say it's one of your favorites. It's Wicked Place. So what was kind of the inspiration behind that song?
Oh, big fucking blues ride, first and foremost. This is the stuff I was singing in the shower when I was a kid, I mean, this is a gray-haired guy's kind of a riff. We've always messed around with these big, fat, bluesy, groovy riffs, but something about this one and the swing, that it was just up and down and up. And it was just so reminiscent of I've said it before, Foghat on steroids. One of those old bands. And all I did was take a moment of insanity and take it as far as I could lyrically. It was sure, you can give up, but when the water gets high, but just don't close your eyes and say goodbye. So.
Do you have a third song planned ahead of the album's release?
Scorched will be the full production video. We shot it just recently, went out to Scranton, PA with a company called My Good Eye. And, it was a basic performance video, but with a few little twists and turns. They didn't use the standard approach to filming. There was no stationary cameras. Everything moved. So I thought that was kind of cool, that it wasn't going to, we weren't going to always go back to a shot of George, sitting there looking into the thing, just, mouth in the lyrics, but everything is constant movement. So he add a few special effects to that. I think it's going to be something that's interesting and something that obviously fits the song itself. So movement.
You brought back artist Travis Smith to do the cover of the album. Fantastic work. The two images in the cover is supposed to represent the conflict that's going on around us. If you want to get a little more into that.
Well, actually, I always like ambiguity. There's the two demons sitting on their tail, and there's the fire in the background, and you could say it's apocalyptic. It has an Armageddon type feel to it, but it could also be, hey, did you see that? What? Let's get the fuck out of here. So I like that ambiguity with regard to it. But the art itself was developed, completely by Travis. We'd used the Greek symbol of I don't know what the symbol's used for. But it's a snake eating its own tail. It's the Erebus is, I think, the pronunciation of it. And he eats his own tail. And that's the only thing we had. And we threw that at him. And he was using our demon or our bat to eat its own tail. And then two were eating its own tail. And then before you know it, they were standing on their spines facing each other like in a face-off, which I thought was kind of cool. Dee picked up on it instantly, to hell with this circular eating the tail shit. He came up with something here. And from there, we kind of went back into our history and Travis started adding the flames, and if you look at our discography, you go all the way back to Feel the Fire. It's a flame, induced visual cover. And now 20 records later, we have a little bit in there from Travis Smith. But I thought it was kind of cool that this many years later that we can also go back to the visual roots of something like that. Because, hey, listen, if you're going to rip somebody off, rip yourself off. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really happy with the cover. It's a work of art, something that I'm going to have actually framed with all the other ones, because I think it's one of the best ones I've seen from us in years now.
You have some great configurations for the album coming up. A lot of people are going the way of vinyl, and you are as well, with multiple colors and versions of the album. But you also have a CD long box and a cassette. So you're really going kind of back to your roots there.
That's some serious old school there. I got into this business part of it. My love of music preceded the business, like most guys in this. When we got into the business part of it, it was LPs and cassettes, and I thought it was so funny when they brought, hey, we're doing a cassette, and it's the novelty of it for the true collector, I suppose. He can get the vinyl, he can get the gatefold vinyl, he can get the cassette, he can have the CD, and he also has the download. And there's people out there that do that. I think that it's part of the reinvention or accepting of the reinvention of the music business itself. You have to find ways to generate revenue. It's not what it was. You know, I came into music at the end of the excess of music. You know, I don't know if you call them the cocaine days, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, there was money being spent all over the place with regard to promotion, and I think that the record companies were wheelbarrows full of cash were being dumped in their bank accounts, and that has absolutely changed. But I got to see the end of that. My point being is that reinvention is necessary after that amount of change. And something like, how do you reinvent yourself? Well, you go back to the beginning and you do a cassette because somebody's going to be interested in that. It's going to catch somebody's eye. Well, your eye, obviously. You get them the vinyl. You do this, you do that, you do specialty product. So I think that loving the music is one thing, but being able to do it, you need to have the revenue to make it happen. So you have to be creative.
Absolutely. This is your third album for Nuclear Blast Records. How did you guys end up signing with them?
Well, we signed to them in 2010. So we have more than 3, but it's our third with Nuclear Blast America. So that's what you're picking up. We were on Nuclear Blast worldwide, all except for the US when we started. So when we got back, when we were through with our American deal, which was with Entertainment One, they wanted us worldwide. And then they took us worldwide. We did 3 records, and now we're signed directly to NB America as opposed to NB Worldwide. So it's a good thing for us. I mean, we're an American band. I want to be signed to an American label. I want somebody who understands the whole thing. Not that the Germans are bad at doing this. I mean, but you want somebody in what's still our biggest market. Everybody's always, oh, you guys must be huge in Europe. It's like, it's about the same, but it's a whole different demographic and it's a whole different geography with regard to it. Because, I mean, there's the East Coast, there's the West Coast, and sure, there's the middle, but there's a lot of space in America that, is just left to the wide open. Where over in Europe, the cities are all closer together. So, if we're in Los Angeles, we might be doing 2,000 people, or in New Jersey or New York, maybe 25 or 2,400 people. But over there, we're averaging about 1,200, per. So I wanted to be on Nuclear Blast. I think they have a great understanding of the bands. They have a great understanding of the old school and also a great look into the future. So it's a good place for, let's say, a band like Overkill to either finish up their career or be in a situation with somebody who understands where we came from and where we want to go.
You're gearing up for the Scorching the Earth European tour this April with Heathen and Exhorder. Have you started your rehearsals yet?
No, I don't rehearse. Come on. What's the point? It takes all the fun and the danger out of the first show, We will rehearse right before we leave. I think the flights out are on the 11th. The first show is the 13th. So, you count back a week and that'll be the rehearsals. I'll probably go 2 days, that kind of thing. I let them, iron out all their problems with each other for a couple of days, and I go in and sing for 2. But it's, we've been doing these songs, and Dave's been in the band for over 20 years, and Derek for 20 years, and Jason Bittner is an absolute encyclopedia for music. Dee Verney knows the songs. It's the new songs that we really have to rehearse, and there's only going to be 4 or 5 of them in the new set. Excuse me, 4 or 5 of them in the new set. So that's where the rehearsal will be focused on.
Have you ever played with Heathen or Exhorder in the past?
We were with we had Exhorder out with us in 2020 when the shutdown happened. I think the last show we did together was the Fillmore in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we were heading up the East Coast. We were almost done with the tour. But we've toured with them. I mean, great guys. Heathen, we did a Euro run with them on their comeback record back in 2011. I think it was Heathen and Destruction from Germany we had with us. So we know both bands. They were in the pool right from the beginning. They were both available. We thought it was a great kind of an underground package to bring to Germany. Tickets seem to be going great at this point. We're still a month out approximately to the first show. So, we're looking for some full houses over there, and they're not small places. I mean, they're, like I said, they're 1,200, 1,500 seaters.
Are you going to be expanding and adding more dates throughout 2023 after this European trek?
Geez, George, sure. I mean, I've been chasing this drug since the 80s. This is why I do this, you know? I got struck by lightning somewhere in 85 at an Overkill show, and I've been chasing that high ever since. We're going to push into the end of June and then into July. We have holds. We're just looking for the support to confirm, and then we confirm those dates. I know it's kind of a short notice thing, this being March, but it's not that short. I mean, it'll be great to tour over the summer. I mean, it's been such a long time since an American summer tour. And I remember the last time we did it, I think we all pooled our money the first day and we bought ourselves like a small propane barbecue, and we set it up outside the bus every night. Got steaks and chicken. Went on the golf. It was like a party, but the fun thing is doing the shows, but it's also such a comfortable time to touring because you actually spend the majority of your time outside of the bus as opposed to being in that aluminum tube full of germs and shit and stink. You can be outside the bus with your shirt off, getting a little sun, having a beer, and grilling a steak, and then going and thrashing your head off,
Mm-hmm. Overkill's been around for nearly 40 years now. Did you ever think of retiring, calling it a day?
Well, I mean, Dee Dee and I started the band when we were 7 and 8, so we're still under 50 years old. I'll know when it's time. I'm not, I don't look into it as, okay, here's the plan. The plan dictates to me, or the circumstance dictates to me whether I can do it or I can't do it. I think that that's the most important thing. I have a huge pride when it comes to presentation. I think that we've always been energetic. I think that we've always been that band that's not ripped somebody off with saying, "Oh, I just don't feel like doing it tonight." I've always felt like doing it. I know Dee Dee Verney is the same kind of a guy. But I'll let nature and age dictate that to me. I mean, I'm a realist. I know there's less time in front of me than there has been behind me, so it will show itself. But there is no plan about retiring at this point.
I'm going to use the term you used earlier, the cocaine years. During the cocaine years, the rock scene was known for its excess and its debauchery, and Overkill was coming on right kind of at the tail end of that. Were you involved in any crazy rock star behavior during the cocaine years?
It's funny. I mean, I think once I got into the band, I can't remember doing anything but dabbling here and there. But I mean, and so few and far between. And I'm not just saying this to wipe myself clean. I call it the cocaine years because of the amount of money that was spent. And I always think that there was guys walking around with it in their pocket, in the business trying to befriend, or get relationships. But it was never really my thing, I mean, prior to being signed, sure, I partied like everybody else did back in the 80s. I mean, that was like, that's what happened back then, but but after that, going on the road, I just didn't have the energy to do both things. I'm still a beer drinker. I've had quite a few drunken debauchery nights, back in the early days when I was a young man. But I don't remember any one instance, where the police were called or, somebody was banging to get in the bus looking for a relative. That kind of stuff. I mean, we had some good times. I mean, a few fistfights and a couple of really great parties. But I think that probably one of the biggest memories I had was early on. We had a bus driver out of Coleman County, Alabama. He was a Coleman County sheriff. He was ex-Air Force. Might have been Vietnam he was in. And we were going to Florida, and we had like 3 days off right in a row. And he took us to his buddy Roger's lake house down in Alabama. The lake, it's a big one, but I'm losing it right now which one it was. And we spent 3 days on the shores of this lake, water skiing, drinking, and the whole thing. And all they asked us to do was play the local teen center on the middle night. So it was really a great trade-off, and it was a hell of a memory.
How did you get the nickname Blitz?
Well, it just came, I mean, it was just one of those things. all the punk rock guys had that back in the day. A nickname, and then there was Dee Dee Verney or Dee Dee Blaze, he was originally called, and Rat Skates, that was our original drummer. And this kind of came on based on a little bit of lifestyle, a little bit, I love the fact that in German it means lightning bolt, but here it means something totally different. So, I mean, again, this was pre being signed. We were kind of a cover band, and this was those dabbling years. So I was kind of living that lifestyle before I was even in let's say the rock and roll and metal business. So it was pre-signed and cover band stuff. And I ended up with Bobby Blitz, and I was totally okay with it. I said, it actually has a ring to it.
It does. Are you working on any side projects when Overkill has downtime? I know you did the BPMD thing with Phil Demmel and Mike Benji during the lockdowns.
We're talking about some more stuff. Again, I mean, things are starting to open up. Guys have toured. I know Mike's out, for instance, with the Winery Dogs, and Phil Demmel is he put his Violence stuff back together. Mark does a whole bunch of studio work, but we're talking about it. I think it would be fun to do another record. It was just a fun pandemic kind of record. I mean, when it came out, to me, I was like, geez, it's like it's like a little bit of sunshine in all this darkness, because it was the influences that, for me, where I came from. When these guys were picking the songs, I was like, I don't have to work on these songs. I know these from when I was a kid, so I hope to do another one, put it that way. I really hope to get another one out there.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Bobby. The new Overkill album is Scorched. It comes out April 14th. I listened to it all week, actually. It sounds great. Certainly one of my favorites in your catalog. And I had a great time talking to you today. And thanks for speaking with KNAC.com.
George, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll see you somewhere on the road.